big huggable robots, scientifically powered superheroes, and more feels than you were prepared for from a robot superhero movie. I'm Jetpack, and this is your Big Hero 6 one-shot. 2014 saw the release of the Marvel and Disney animated film Big Hero 6, which tells the tale of a boy named Hero, his healthcare companion Robot, and the team of superheroes that they form in order to take down Yokai, who is a mysterious villain who might be responsible for Hero's brother's death. Hands down, Big Hero 6 is one of my favorite movies of all time. At the very least, it's the best animated film I've ever seen. It was fun, the action was great, it was filled with humorous moments, and it also somehow managed to balance and put in a whole bunch of emotions in there that you just weren't expecting from a movie like this. And the environment of San Francisco, which is where it takes place, was just so cool that I want to go to there. Few may know this, but Big Hero 6 was actually based on a Marvel comic way before it was made into a Disney movie. The differences between the two are huge, and so that's what we're actually going to talk about today. So Big Hero 6's first appearance in comics began in 1998 in the limited series Sunfire and Big Hero 6. In this 3-issue series, the mutant Silver Samurai is put in charge of recruiting members for a Japanese government-sanctioned superhero team. Inducted into the team are Secret Agent Honeylemon, Go-Go Tamago, Hero Takachiho and Baymax, and X-Men Mutant Sunfire. This team quickly comes together as they fight their first villain, the Everwraith, who is the ghostly embodiment of all those killed in the 1945 attacks on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, who threatens to slaughter millions in downtown Tokyo. After their first adventure, they make a few appearances in the Canadian superhero team comic Alpha Flight, and even briefly in the famous Civil War. It wasn't until 2008 that Big Hero 6 got their own comic book again, with a 5-issue miniseries. With Sunfire and Silver Samurai gone, the team makeup changed, with Hero becoming the main leader, and they also added 2 new characters, Wasabi no Ginger and Fred. This is the team that the movie is based on, except they took so many huge departures from the original story that really comparing the stories would be a waste of time. So instead, we are going to look at the similarities and differences of the characters from the comics and the movie. First, we're going to start off with Go-Go Tamago. In the comics, Leiko Tanaka, aka Go-Go, is the hot-headed member of the team. It's presumed that she doesn't like anybody, she has no patience for anybody, and in fact, Hero is the only character who believes that she genuinely cares for other people. She's very aggressive and impulsive and is more than likely going to jump into battle before thinking through any of the consequences. It is also hinted at that she's pretty jealous of Honeylemon for the attention that she gets. Go-Go wears a voice-activated battlesuit that is initiated by the phrase Go-Go Tamago, which temporarily transforms her into a ball of speeding energy that she uses to collide with her enemies with explosive impact. It's also noted that she is an excellent motorcyclist and racer. In the movie, Go-Go isn't as nearly as aggressive as she is in the comics, however she still has that colder demeanor than the rest of her teammates. She shows no patience for Wasabi during the car chase scene, where she ends up taking over and showing off her elite driving skills. They took away her catchphrase, but they kept the battlesuit pretty much to the original colors of the comic book. Oh, and because all of the movie characters are science nerds, they each represent a science field, and so Go-Go actually represents mechanical engineering and physics due to the bike that she has in the nerd lab, as well as the magnetic discs that are a part of her battlesuit. Next up is Honeylemon, who is a little bit different than how she's depicted in the comics. Agent Aiko Miyazaki is the most caring and compassionate member of the Big Hero 6 team. She is also an excellent martial artist, as well as a brilliant scientist who has worked extensively with artificial miniature wormholes. These wormholes are used in her super ability, which she carries around what's called a power purse, where she can pull out literally anything that she wants out of it, that she just keeps. It's like a bottomless purse, basically. In the comics, Honeylemon is also used as the fan service eye candy character because her standard uniform is way more revealing than everyone else's, as well as a mind-controlled Honeylemon is depicted multiple times in her underwear or wearing a bikini, and it's too much. The comics also hint at the fact that Honey Lemon has a crush on Hiro, but it isn't explored too much. In the Disney movie, Honey Lemon is shown to be the sweet and sunny character of the team. She's always optimistic and looking for ways to encourage and support her teammates. In battle form, she has something very similar to her power purse. She has a purse that is essentially like a mini lab where she can use her knowledge and love of chemistry to create a variety of different weapons. Basically, she can choose which chemicals go into what's called a chem ball, and then she can throw it and it may cause, hardening foam or whatever. It's pretty cool. Between the two versions, they're fairly similar. I think in the comics she's a little bit more prideful and knows she's beautiful, and so she's kind of a little bit more aggressive and all that kind of stuff. Where in the movie, she seems to be a lot more selfless as well as modest, clearly. But it is more focused on science and how her friends are doing. Now we have Wasabi no Ginger, who is one of the most changed characters from the comics to the movie. In the comics, not much is really known about Wasabi except for the fact that he's Japanese, a trained chef, and a samurai. In fact, the first time we see him, he's actually preparing sushi for his teammates until they are surprise attacked by some enemies, and he quickly dispatches them via his martial arts prowess. Wasabi also has the added ability of concentrating his ki energy into pulses of energy that are shaped as knives. If he lands one of these energy knives into a target's head, they become unconscious. In the movie, Wasabi is a smart and orderly to the point of OCD student in applied physics. Despite being the most physically imposing member of the team, he is shown to be quite timid and a very strict follower of the rules. This is shown when, in a middle of the car chase scene, he decides to stop at a red light. It's also mentioned that he gets his nickname from the one time that he spilled wasabi on his shirt. As a superhero, Wasabi uses a modified version of his Nerd Lab project, laser-induced plasma. Equipped in his battle suit are two retractable blades on the arms of his suit that can pretty much cut through any kind of material. I really enjoyed the changes that they made to Wasabi. I think it made him a super interesting character, though I have to say that I really like the whole samurai thing that's going on in the comic book version, but it's kind of hard for me to choose which one I like better. Now, Fred is another character that was changed quite a bit from the comics, and this time it is definitely a toss-up as to which one I like better. Fred is a level-headed and loyal member of the team. He knows when to be serious, however, he likes to keep it playful since he's always wearing a dinosaur t-shirt. Unlike the movie version of Fred, comics Fred actually has a super ability. He can summon a huge, tangible aura of a Godzilla-like creature that he can control and use to fight. Baymax, who is the first person to see him use his ability in the middle of a small skirmish, immediately apologizes upon seeing it and ends the fight. And later, when Hiro actually sees Fred use his ability, he says that despite knowing that Fred is his friend, he is scared of the sheer power and wants to run and hide. So comic book Fred is definitely a really cool character. The movie version of Fred is definitely not as strong as he is in the comics. However, he is for sure one of the funniest characters in the movie. He's the only member who is not a part of the Nerd Lab. In fact, he's just the school's mascot. Continuing with the trend of characters representing different types of sciences, Fred's interest in a shrink ray, lizard transformation drug, or even his invisible sandwich all fall under the realm of fringe science. As a superhero, Fred's battlesuit represents some kind of three-eyed Godzilla creature monster that is aptly named Fredzilla. He can spit out fire and jump to incredible heights, but he really shows effectiveness when he uses his sign spinning techniques that he's learned as a school mascot. Though he may not be the most powerful, Fred definitely makes it up for with his friendliness, his humor, and the fact that he's super rich. As for the main character Hiro, it's harder to pinpoint the changes between the comics and the movie because he's really not all that distinct of a character. One of the main changes from the comic books to the movie is the fact that they changed his name. In the movie, it's Hiro Hamada, while in the comics, it's Hiro Takachiho. And really, I'm not sure why they changed it. I tried researching it, but I really couldn't find anything. My main thought is maybe it just sounds better. The new name follows common superhero naming conventions of using an alliteration like Peter Parker or Bruce Banner, so Hiro Hamada definitely fits that. In the comics, Hero is also a boy genius, like it's shown in the movies. However, he was actually the one who built and programmed Baymax. In the movie, it's his brother Tadashi. However, Tadashi does not exist in the comics, and so there's actually not a brother who dies in the comics, though it is mentioned in the first issues of the Sunfire and Big Hero 6 comic book that Hero's father died before the events of the comic, and that had some effect into how he programmed Baymax. He also takes a less action-oriented role in the comics, whereas in the movie we see him riding on top of Baymax and issuing commands and being very much team leader. In the comics, he is shown usually just hacking things or using gear that he's made and just helping out the team with his brain power. Really, the only other big change that I can think of is that in the movie he kind of acts a little bit more his age. He's rebellious and sarcastic, and very much thinks like a teenager, while in the comics he shows a lot more intelligence and maturity. Now, when you think of Baymax, you think of this soft, huggable robot. This is the Baymax of the comics. As you can see, comic book Baymax is very different from the movie version. In the comics, Baymax is a synth former, a robot that can transform into two other things. His main form is of a burly man in a suit, while he is shown in two different transformations. One is a dragon-like form, the other is more of a robot mech form. Comic book Baymax's demeanor is very different than what is depicted in the movie. In the movie, he's a healthcare companion and is caring and naive, while in the comics, he is programmed to be overprotective and paranoid. He's Hero's bodyguard and definitely does a great job of that. There are several times where a threat pops up and he is transformed into one of his other forms before anyone else can react. In the comics, he's also a little bit scary. In his human form, you can't ever see his face, it's always shrouded in darkness, but when you do see his face, his eyes are always glowing. It's really just kind of scary. Comic book Baymax is definitely not the huggable robot that we know in the movie. And this one is actually a change that I enjoy more in the movie than I do the original in the comics. In the comics, really looking back, Baymax is not really that memorable. He doesn't really have that much of a personality. He's just kind of, he is more robotic and cold and not really, that he is very protective of Hero, but doesn't really necessarily communicate the love that we see in the movie. Where we know, this Baymax is caring and he really does care for people and wants to help people, but in the comics it's just kind of meh. As you can see, the two different versions are very different. Disney definitely took some liberties with the characters, but the inspiration is still there. I really like both versions for different reasons, and in fact, I would love to see them bring back both teams into the comics. I would love a series where it's the comic book team kind of back in the Marvel universe, while maybe there's another series going on. Maybe I would still read it even if it was kids oriented, but if the movie team had their own comic book, I would totally read it. The teams have similarities, but the distinctions are enough that I think they could make some great stories that would be pretty memorable. If you haven't seen Big Hero 6, you can actually pick it up on Blu-ray on February 24th. Also, if you happen to be a big fan of concept art, I recommend picking up The Art of Big Hero 6. This is a great art book that just shows a lot of the concepts and steps that Disney took to remake a lot of the designs, as well as how they came up with the designs for San Francisco. It's super great, and the art in here is one of a kind, so definitely pick it up. I actually wrote a review for this book on Geeks Under Grace, and I'll actually put a link to it in the description below, so please check that out when you have a minute. This has been your Big Hero 6 one-shot. I'm Jetpack, and I will see you next time.